Thank you.
And our recording is in progress here. I'll wait until people come in. We're just right at the top of our session time here. So welcome, waiting for everyone to come into the room. So we have the title of Martin's presentation, Launching and Playing AUs in a Desktop App Using xAPI, CMI5, and Catapult. So very interesting stuff here. And I think you'll be in for a treat when you see everything. I kind of click through a little fast, but I think there's great stuff in here. So I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to Martin. So Martin, when you're ready, just go ahead and take us through.
Okay, thank you, Karen. So this is sort of, first I'll explain my backdrop. It's sort of a bucket list thing, is to go up and see the Northern Lights. And I actually grew up in Northern Ontario, north of Lake Superior. So I did see them when I was a kid, but it's been a long time and I'd really like to go way north up to like Yellowknife or and the Yukon, Whitehorse. So this is where I'd like to go, but it's a theme of beyond the browser. So with SCORM, all of your learning materials have to be played in a browser. And one thing that CMI5 brings you is the opportunity to go beyond that. So my project was that I've been working on for a long time, and I'll explain sort of the whole where it came from and where it's going. So the idea is I want to run e-learning stuff that can connect to the LMS, but isn't in a browser, isn't in a standalone application, whether it's a desktop or a mobile application. So I've sort of struggled through different parts of it. And what I have to show today is still just pieces of it that I haven't got all plugged together, but they work on their own. But it's also helped me learn a lot about how, just in general, CMI5 works, how xAPI works, how things get sent, how um, like how something is posted, how what a fetch URL is, and all that stuff. So to keep me organized, I've done some PowerPoint slides, and I've done it kind of backwards. So what I want to do is first just introduce myself, introduce what I'm talking about. So I started with just et voila, like here it is, I'm going to do the demo first, and then I'm going to back up and show how it was done. Kind of like the cake comes out of the oven, and then you go back and you show the steps you made to get there. And just as a help, a hint, a help, or something like that, I've put in green different terms that are specific to that, with Docker or a container or those kinds of things. So I'll go through all of this during the course of this. Okay, next slide. So who are you and what do you do? So I'm a sign language interpreter, as well as a trainer and a mentor. So I've been an interpreter for over 30 years, and I work in an internship program. And so I worked one-on-one with interns, but we also would give them videos to watch, interpret. We'd record them and give them feedback. So that's one thing I do. And that led me to sort of some, I have a technological bent. I'm also a software developer, entrepreneur, founder, CEO, and only if CEO means Chief Everything Officer. So I'm self-employed, which means I have a lousy boss and a lazy worker. But anyways, I developed an e-learning application for the interpreter training I was doing, and it's kind of a language lab. The learner watches the source video, they record their interpretation of the target video, and then when it's played back, the two videos are side by side and the playback is synchronized. So if they stop source, then their video stops. Or no, it's as they play it back, it synchronizes, so whatever they saw while they were watching it. So if they pause the source video, the source video will pause. If they played it, it'll play, so that the person reviewing it can see what they were looking at when they were doing whatever they were doing. And then I had it so that comments could be added as annotations and projects could be shared. I had my own web backend software as a service. So even more things about who am I and what do I do. My first cohort was in the fall of 2020, so this is my fifth. Now, this is the disclaimer. I'm not an expert. I'm still learning xAPI, CMI5, etc. There's a lot of people here, a lot more experience than I, so there's a good chance I will say something incorrect about xAPI, CMI5. I will, and I actually can't read this because I can't change my thing, but there's a third thing there that's in orange.
Okay,
And
so
what's it say? The second last from the bottom, I can't move
say
my,
something incorrect and then resort to hand waving or guessing.
yes, so I might just go like, and then this happens, or I might just make an error. So if you are one of those people who know more than I, and there are many, correct me. And if I do and when I do, because has been a learning and process and continues to be. But thank you, Karen, for that. I should have figured out how to move that thing before I started. Okay, so what's the problem? So I had this application, it worked well. I had it at one university as a, I had two different places that I had as customers. I was wanting to do it, scale it somehow. But all the universities and colleges at that time were adopting LMSs, and mine's a desktop, Mac, or Windows application. And so I thought, well, I'll just integrate it into an LMS, and I found out SCORM can only run in web. There's not that much opportunity to score beyond pass or fail, like to put annotations or anything like that. And then I found 10can, and it seemed like, okay, that would work. It could do statements. But when I looked up how to implement it, there wasn't much at the time. So what I want to do about it is made it, and this is what I've been working on as I've been in the cohort over the years, is create a proof of concept that will launch a course from a learning management system in a Mac OS desktop app, run the course in the app, and so then the app itself is a learning record provider, and then send xAPI statements to an LRS, and then fetch and update data from the LRS, or to, can you read the last line again for me? Fetch and update
And update learner data in LMS from Mac OS app.
Okay, thank you. Okay. And so why would you want to do that? Well, then I can run courses beyond the browser, and there's benefits to that. So I don't have to have a continuous internet connection. I don't have to worry about which browser is playing the content. Some tasks will run faster in a native app than in a browser. Some features are more easy to implement than in a browser. And I don't have to deal with the complexity of JavaScript. And Karen, if you could be so kind.
Sure, can work in a lower code IDE like live code.
Yeah, okay, so live code is the IDE that I work for, and that's like integrated development environment. So it's like a programming language as well as um, the way you put things together. And live code, it descended from HyperCard, so it's sort of a grandchild of HyperCard, if anyone can remember that from Apple. But it's a way easier to create applications, learning materials, whatever, than it is working with JavaScript on the web. And so the next question, is it even possible? But as I was reading about CMI5 and xAPI, it becomes possible with CMI5. And this is just a quote from, there's a guide, and you can read it there, about working with CMI5. And it's so basically, SCORM only operates in the browser. but with CMI5 and xAPI working together, you can, and it's browser or device independent. So the content can reside anywhere, it can play anywhere. And so this is a graphic which is from xapi.com, and it just shows that xAPI and CMI5 together can do all of the things that, or well, CMI5 basically does what SCORM and xAPI could do independently. So xAPI on its own can't do everything. SCORM does even less, but CMI5, because it's a profile of xAPI, which it means it is something that is like sits on top of xAPI in a sense. It has verbs, and this isn't the hand waving and things. So, but anyways, using CMI5, which is communicates via xAPI to the learning management system, to the learning record store, it acts like SCORM, but it has all of the features of xAPI and more. Sounds like an ad for something. Okay, and then I put, huh? Da, 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 da. So this isn't just to prove that you could really explain this in a really convoluted way, which is how I would normally do things, but I'm going to try and demonstrate it. So I'm going to launch it with something called Catapult. And Catapult was developed by Rustici Software to allow people to test CMI5 content and also test LMSs to see if they're conformant with CMI5. Okay. Oh, wait, and I know why. Oh, that's okay. So now it's the things where the real hand waving starts. So this is Docker. So while I'm waiting for something to happen here, what Docker is it's a way to pretend you're running a server. Well, you are running a server on your local machine. And so it has containers. And from Rustici, you can download the Catapult software, which then you can set up as a Docker instance or a Docker container. So this is the Catapult test suite. It has a CMI5 player, and it has a database, and it has a web service. So within this, it's basically a mini LRS that you can play content in. And if I'm very, very nice, it will let me run Docker. Okay, now I go back to my web browser. And so I'm running it locally. So then the URL is localhost, and then the number that it has, and then the client number. And it's not going to do that. Okay. Oh, wait, there it is. Just let me see if that. Ah, that's it. Okay. So this is what Catapult is you can, like for example, if you wanted to, it comes with some preset courses. So these are written in CMI5, so you could say, how could I possibly do a CMI5 course? So this is, so I'll show you one of the ones that come with it. So Introduction to Geology Responsive Style. I'm going to do a test of it. So I need to say who the actor is. So it gives me this randomized thing. So it's going to be Beverly Jasklowski, and that's the home page and account name. So I continue. This is the information about it, who the actor is, and I launch it. Oh, there is a pop-up blocker. Now this is one of the problems with CMI5 and with SCORM is pop-up. It doesn't like pop-up blockers, and I got to see how to change that. Settings. And if anyone knows how to stop pop-ups, they can let me know. It's probably a privacy thing, isn't it? No. Please help.
It might be a security thing.
Oh, is there security? Oh, security.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna search pop-up. This way. Google or DuckDuckGo. DuckDuckGo. Tired of being tracked online? We can help. Anyways, little plug. Okay, what was I looking for?
Pop-up.
Oh, pop-up.
Not exactly sure.
Pop-up blocker on Safari.
There it is. In the websites tab, you can allow or block
Okay.
all or some.
On your iPhone, go Safari settings.
On the websites tab, go to the websites tab.
Oh, there.
Okay. And then you can have like configurations.
Oh, pop-up windows.
There it is. So
for now to allow. Okay, now we try this back. Thank you for the assistance. Try
sure.
again.
Isn't Google or whatever
any,
browser?
Yes,
Go,
any
duck,
browser. Yeah, DuckDuckGo.
That's how we learn things. Look,
Yes.
intro to geology. Great.
Intro to geology. And just an interesting fact, the reason they do geology is because the, what do you call it? The code names for, is it CMI5? I think it is, or Catapult or something. One of those things is rocks. And the harder, the better, the more advanced the hardness gets higher. So they're at quartz right now. So, but it just talks about this. You can play movies, you can do all of that. And it's currently tracking this on whatever learning LRS that I've set up. Okay, so I'm going to go back home. So that's how you would do it with a traditional SCORM or a CMI5. That's a CMI5, but it's in the browser. So this one that I'm going to do is I'm going to do it another way so that when I click on this, I'm going to test it. As you can see, I've done a lot of tests and hopefully this is, so I randomize it. Tracy Dickinson, PhD, continue, launch. So now it says, do you want to allow this page to open LC Web Launcher? And you've probably seen something like this when you launch Zoom, the Zoom app or whatever. So this is called the custom URL scheme. So instead of HTTPS at the beginning, it would be LC Web Launcher : / da 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 da. So that way it's the URL is written so that when you launch it, it will launch the app on your desktop that's configured with that. And so now the app is launched. And this has now been populated with the URL, the launch URL. So within that URL, so this is the launch URL, and I'm going to try and copy it here. But anyways, it's bigger, but that sort of shows you the whole extent of it. But I've broken it down. So what it contains is the endpoint for my learning management system, a fetch URL, the actor's information, so the name, the home page, all of that, the object type. So following a proper xAPI format, an activity ID which identifies the course that I'm taking, my Hello World 2, and then a registration ID. So had this again, the hand waving. I think the registration is that, so I'm registered for this course. So anytime I work on this course, it'll use the same registration ID. So that's how you follow the, like when you track it on your LRS, you can see that. So all that comes across in the first URL. So the way I get this in my application is on Apple, it has an Apple event. And so when an application receives an Apple event, it'll launch. That says launch it, and then it can go in and say, okay, so what data came with that? So if it was launched by double-clicking a file, it'll give it the path. But because it was launched by a URL, it just provides the URL. So then I just have to parse that information, and so that gives me some of the data I need to communicate with the learning resource, the LRS, but I need to get a little bit more with the fetch URL, because the next thing I need is a token in order to communicate with it. With the, so I, what do I want to say? So the endpoint for an LRS is the actual, just the URL that you're going to send statements to. So you'll say post some data and your xAPI statement, and that'll be sent. But it has to know who it is. So but if you send your username and password with that, it could be intercepted, people could do bad things. So what it does is it gives you a token, a little key that it gets sent with it, and that authorizes you. You just, this is just a security thing. So all it does is gives you this URL for the fetch, and then you go and take that and post it back to the LRS. And so I say, okay, I want to fetch more data. And what it gives you is this authorization token. And so that authorization token you use to send it along when you send your xAPI statement. And then so then on, you use that. So now you've got the authorization token, you've got the author, the registration ID, all of that stuff. So that's all together. So that's what allows you to then start a session that has that's using from a desktop using xAPI. And just to prove that I actually did that, I'm going to just go back to my, sorry, I've got, where's my windows? So many windows. Oh, Catapult. Back to Catapult. So I'm in my Hello World 2, and I started, I'm going to, so it says like the fetch URL was used, the session was initiated, but I'm going to abandon it. And so the session was abandoned. Now my xAPI, or my LRS is, sorry, I'm doing this trying to navigate like all these desktops to make it quicker. Might make me log in. So these are the, so first off was, now I'm going to get braver and I'm going to try and move this thing. Ah, I moved it. Yes. Okay. So this is like a full session here. So this was Beverly Jaskolski doing the, I feel like I'm, oh, sorry, but trying to pronounce that name. So there's some of the xAPI verbs. So they are the statements. So she initialized it, then she experienced the first page. She initialized a video. I think that's a video. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, video, activity type video. So started a video, then went to another page, and oh, initialized mountains again. So that was sort of the whole process. With Tracy Dickinson, all I have now is that it was launched and it has all of the um, xAPI statement to do the verb. So here's the actor name, Tracy Dickinson. There's the verb launched. There's content. That's the timestamp. So all of this stuff is being sent back. So it's sent from my application. The application which launched knows the URL of the LRS, so it sends it back, and that's the proxy. And the LRS knows the password, the username and password for the LRS, and it knows the endpoint, so it sends a statement to the LRS. And so, but I just had a launched and then abandoned. So those are the only two statements I have in it so far, but it was just basically a proof of content showing that you can use a desktop application to launch and close an xAPI or a CMI5 e-learning process. So I just want to see if people have questions, because then I have another part where I show, okay, here's how you could actually send statements, like actually a working program. I just haven't merged the two of them together. So I'm just going to stop sharing for a minute because I just feel like I'm looking at a blank wall.
Well, I don't see any questions coming through and or comments, but I'll give everyone a couple of minutes and you can either type them in chat or put them in the Q&A pod, whichever you prefer. There's a lot going on that Martin is sharing with us, so all this great work. So thanks so much, Martin. But I'm not seeing any questions. So if you have more to share with us, please continue.
Yeah, okay. And then I'll just, then I'll start putting the whole thing together, and just like people cooking on TV. Okay, so I'm sharing again, if I can find my page, my Zoom. Desktop one. Okay. So I'm going to go back and find another program. Oh, I have a couple things I want to show you. Just the sort of how-tos. Oh, wrong thing. Have to, am I sharing yet? I am sharing. I get an Xcode thing. I want to disagree with that because that's not how I want to open.
Yep.
Okay, good. So it's just sort of, I feel like I'm just talking to the wall, and it's like,
no, you're doing fine. It's great. So we're in Storm Cloud here.
Yeah, okay. So here is So I said about, that's not what I wanted. I want to make that bigger. And then I want to see if I can make the font bigger.
I think we can
Yeah.
read it.
Okay, you can read it? Okay,
I
yeah.
think so. And if
Okay.
everyone wants to, they can make their screen into Zoom full screen mode, and then you'll be able to see it a little better.
So this was, so as far as developing and all of that, I'm more of like, just keep trying to things until they stop breaking. And so this started with, well, how do you do that? How do you launch an application? Zoom does it. I should be able to do it. I did some searching, but still it was sort of a little bit of trial and error. But I opened up the Zoom. So on the Mac, and there's ways to do it on Windows, and I haven't investigated that yet, but I'm going to do it so that when I get around to doing a solution for this, I can do Mac or Windows. But there's on the Mac, it's called a plist. So it has all the information about your application. So I called my application LC Web Launcher, or I called Live Code Web Launcher, and that is this custom URL scheme. So I'm just going to look for it. Oh, launcher. Maybe there's more of those. Okay. Is there only one? Okay. Oh, web launch, that's what it is. Okay, find. So that's my custom scheme, is LC Web Launch. And so I just have to add a few extra bits of data. So there's one as a bundle identifier, and you just do it as reverse URL. So instead of web launcher copesourcetext.com, you do it backwards. And then you have URL bundle types, and you stick those in. And so I've got this string, and so this is what it looks for when it gets that command. So it sees the browser sees LC web launch : / and then whatever URL string you have. It then says, okay, where's an application that can do that? It looks, it finds it in the string, and then it asks you, do you want to do that? And it says yes, and it says, don't ask me again, and you click that, and then it keeps asking you again. So that doesn't work. But other than that, it works. And then you have like a bundle version string, and you have some other stuff. So it's just a few little things you have to edit, and then all of a sudden you can have your thing launch. The other bit of fiddling around you have to do is, oh yeah, here it is. So when you set up SCORM Cloud, I have to set up this configuration file, and it's just called .env. So because it starts with a dot on a Mac, it's an invisible file. And so I had to change the name to something else so I could find it. But it just says, okay, what URL am I going to use this to find it on my machine? But I also have to add the things that the LMS needs to find the LRS and to communicate with it. So this is the endpoint. And so this is my SCORM Cloud account and the sandbox. So I'm putting it in the sandbox. So the sandbox is just somewhere you play around with, experiment with before you go to production. And then I also can put my username and my password. So when I'm fetching, using the fetch URL, it gives me this token. And so now anytime I communicate with the LRS, I use the token to say, this is still me. I'm the one who is authorized to send statements to my LRS. So the LMS knows that it's me. And once they know it's me, then they can turn around and say, okay, here's the endpoint, here's the username, the password, and it sends from the LRS, from the LMS, it sends the LRS out to the proper endpoint and it gets stored. And just to show you that's true, because I assume nobody believes me, I'm going to get, oh, I'm in Squirm Cloud. Oh, that's what I did. I did just show you. So that's the part where it shows that it was actually received with Squirm Cloud. Okay, so that was just the configuration of how it got to there. Okay, now I'm going to have another application. This was done as a part of another sorry, I'm going blank. xAPI cohort, some year we had team live code. And I got to go back into the mess of files that I have here. Okay, just while I look, any other questions about anything? Oh, wait, here it is. So this is live code. So this is the programming language, the programming environment of language that I'm using. Okay. So this is sort of the next step in the process. So you've got, so the other program was just getting the endpoint, the username, the password, and this is a Grassblade account. So Grassblade is another LRS. The person who runs Grassblade is the person behind the video profile. So we wanted to try out the video profile. And also the actor credentials, we're just manually entering them in here. And now, so the other program would have supplied these credentials, and then this just add that, and then it can go on to opening the player. Okay, so I just have to pick a video. Oh, so in that profile, I could say, okay, I want a completion threshold of 70%. So if you complete 70%, then you consider to have watched it. If you do less than that, then you haven't. So I've got to find myself a video. Okay. So now, oh, and this is in my learnings that I've done. I showed this off, and I realized I made a mistake because I put context and something else as like within the verb. Like you're supposed to have like verb, actor, listen, actor, ID, object, verb, and then content, and then extensions, like they're all on the same level. I nested them, which isn't right. So it doesn't, it's something I need to fix, but I just sort of figured that out because I was showing this to someone and I said, that's not right. So this is always helpful to show what you're doing. Okay, so now as I'm playing this, so at the bottom here, below where it says like the blue line, it says, this is the actor. I shouldn't be able to do that, but anyway, pause the video. It's just putting like an English version of it. But so here's the actor. So it was team xAPI and live code. The verb was paused, and then it does some stuff about the time. And it also shows the segment that was played. So it went from 0 to 4 seconds and 4.261. Then this shows one segment that's played. I do another segment. Now it shows I've got, and the notation it uses is, this is like from that number to that number, and then has a comma, and then it says from that number to that number. But I can go to another part of the video. It should be saying seeked, but I don't know why it's not doing seeked. But anyways, if I go to somewhere else, then it's saying, okay, first you did 0 to 4, then you did 4 to 7, and now you did 3 to 8. So it overlaps. And what it can do then is it can calculate from that whether or not I watch that whole thing. So if I go farther, then I'm getting like this whole tracking of what the user's doing. And it says I'm at progress 64%, but I'm just going to go to the end and play it. Oh, that's the completion threshold. That's part of it in the context. Yeah, anyways, this just has all of that data. Now this is the weird part to me, and I have to figure out why this is. And what are we at? 327. So as I said, I did this wrong. I put these all should be at the same level: contents, extensions, completion. Well, that's part of the extensions. In spite of that, I get back a result success, and this is just a communication that happens between the LRS and this application. So it's going from a desktop application to the LRS, and if I've structured this correctly, it comes back without success. And the reason I had that result is this is my trial and error troubleshooting, making lots of mistakes and finally getting it right. So once I got this, I thought, okay, we're golden. But it's not obviously checking whether or not it's formatted correctly. It's basically saying, do you have enough brackets, open brackets to match the closed brackets, or do you have quotes and commas and things? But it's not saying, does this match CMI 5 rules, so that you have to have actor ID, all of these things at the same level of the hierarchy. So that was something I learned. I just assumed if you get this, you're good. It's not true. Okay, so now when I go to the end, it gave me the completed video. Uh, so, so in this case, all of these things that I was sending, these are called, within CMI5, they're called xAPI allowed statements. So this is everything that you're doing within your program. And then what I was doing with the other application was the xAPI no, CMI5, no. CMI5 allowed. The other one was CMI5 required. So the next step that what I would do is now well, first fix that problem that I had, the error that I had with the verb and the context and the extensions, but then merge these things two together. So that's my next sort of job with this.
So, Martin, my apologies. I did not give you the time check of the
Okay,
the
okay, no
15
problem.
minutes to go. So we're just about at the end of our
Good.
time.
Yeah, and that's basically I'm done, and that's good. I've
Oh,
made it through. I did not,
yeah.
I did not, things didn't fall apart as
Well,
much
it
as I
was,
thought they might.
yeah, thanks so much, Martin, for sharing that with
Okay.
us and taking us through and I mean, you always learn by doing. You
Mm,
get it right, you get it wrong, you
yeah.
still learn. So I think
Yeah.
that was a wonderful example for all of us. Thanks for taking us on that journey.
Okay.
And we have one more session left at the xAPI party. That's our closing panel session. So please go back to your um, what do I want to say? Your email that you received. I'm also going to drop that right here in chat so that you have it available to you once I get over there, and we'll see you at the closing panel session. Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.